y'all, welcome back to my channel. Amy here. How's it going? I have been having a very good time over on TikTok, or BookTok if you will. Although I do find the TikTok world in general, as far as like comments and things like that, they can be brutal sometimes. Like, I'm like, okay. But it's okay. I don't take it personally. I've been doing this enough. You know, I've gotten comments over the years. If I don't like it, if I don't want it to be, if it gives bad vibes, it's being deleted. I don't even fool with it. It's not even there. Anyway, moving right along, today's video is going to be my May wrap up. I still have so many books that I haven't talked to y'all about that I've read even from the end of 2024. I'm trying to like catch up on those as well. So yeah, just bear with me. It's coming. So I read / listened to 7 books this month. I tried for 8, but one of them did not go very well. So let's start with that one. Riven by Roan Parrish. I hardly ever DNF a male romance because I absolutely love them and I will just truly like read them or listen to them without having a problem. But for some reason this one just was not, it just wasn't catching my attention. Like, I don't even remember the name of the characters. I don't remember how far I got. I just wasn't impressed really with it at all, and I hate to say that. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I don't want any negative energy. I know there's a lot of people out there that probably love this book, but this is the first book in the Riven series, and our couples are Theo and Caleb. I don't remember too much about them, but I will just say I didn't get very far when I realized it was not catching my attention. I had no idea what was going on in the story. I had no idea who the characters were. I started listening to this book, so I don't know if it was the narration. I don't even remember who it was narrated by. I remember thinking that it was narrated by Teddy Hamilton, but it was not narrated by Teddy Hamilton. And I don't remember who the narrator was, but I don't think it was the narrator that was the problem. I just think the story in general just didn't catch me. So we'll just leave it at that. If you've read this book and loved it, great. Every book out there deserves a chance, and it just wasn't for me. I started my month off with Never Will I Ever by C.E. Ricky. This is the second book in the Reckless Games series. This is Avery and Caleb's story. We meet these two characters in the first book. In my opinion, the first book was better, but this one was still good. I gave it 4 stars. I don't feel like you could read this one as a standalone because the events that took place in the first book kind of go over into the second book, which turns these 2 guys from enemies to lovers, because they become enemies in the first book and enemies to lovers in this second book. The second book is also a sort of forced proximity type of romance. This is also a sports romance. These guys play baseball, but that's kind of in the background. This actually takes place at a summer camp where one of the guys is always there for the summer camp as a camp counselor, and then the other guy is just sort of coming there to make up for what he did in the previous book. So Avery kind of starts off as our character that we don't really like, but he quickly becomes a character that I fell in love with, just because he has his own little struggles, he has his own little background, and that's the reason why he sort of lashes out as he does. As he's at the summer camp with Caleb, they become closer, start to become more friends. So I guess enemies to friends to lovers type of story. But Caleb really feels for him and just really wants to help him out. He can see deep down that Avery is a really good guy. But it takes a while for these guys to get where they end up to be. The story did lag a little bit for me, hence the 4 stars. Even though I love the characters and I stayed committed to their story and I wanted to know more about their story, It just didn't grab me like that first book did, but it was still a great read. Then I decided to pick up a thriller. So I went to my library and I checked out She's Not Sorry by Mary Kupica. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I felt like it was a very slow start, so sort of a slow burn thriller. But once we got to the whole plot and a couple twists that was happening, it really picked up for me. So we follow a woman named Megan. She is a nurse and a single mother. On one of her shifts, she gets a new patient named Caitlin, who is a coma patient who's had a very traumatic brain injury. This brain injury, or these brain injuries, were from her jumping from a bridge, but the family does not believe that this was intentionally done by Caitlin. They don't believe Caitlin was the type of person to end her life this way. So that goes on to kind of get into the story of what was happening in Caitlin's life that brought this traumatic event on. There's also a little background about a serial killer that is attacking women very close to where Megan and her daughter live. So there's a little backstory there. So does Caitlin have anything to do with this serial killer? Was she attacked by the serial killer? What was going on in Caitlin's life? The family is not really giving any type of information because they've actually been unassociated with Caitlin for a while. So Megan starts to get in a little too deep with this family. She starts to kind of deep dive into Caitlin's life and why her family wasn't in her life, but now they are at her bedside. So it, like I said, very slow burn. It kept me interested, but then once we really got to the whole point of the plot and the little twist in the end, I really started to pay a little bit more attention. Overall, it was a fun read. Back to my Mel Mel romances, I was like, okay, we're gonna get us a good one here. Let me go to one of my go-to authors for this. So I chose Mine by Riley Hart. I really did enjoy this story. I gave it 4 stars. This story has a little bit of an age gap. This is sort of maybe a forbidden kind of romance. This is a father's best friend romance. So this is JT and Marsh's story. Marsh is JT's dad's best friend. JT craves to be a submissive, so he goes online, like these dating apps, to try to find his dom partner, and he also likes older men. This is where he meets Marsh, although they don't know that who each other are, but immediately they connect with each other and they start to talk more. And of course, you can only imagine how it goes from there when they actually meet. So for a little while, we don't know who each other are for a little while, and I love that. I love the sexy little banter between the two. I loved that they knew each other but didn't know each other, and just how their relationship blossomed once they realized who each other was. Great, fun, sexy little story. And it was narrated by Nick Russo, who is a very good Mil Mil romance narrator. Then I picked up The Haunting of Maddie Clare. This is by Simone St. James. This was a 2.5 star for me. I did listen to this book. The narration was done really well. It was narrated by Billy Fulford Brown. Very good narration. The dialogue is a bit, like Old English type of dialogue, because this is a historical fiction. It does take place in the 1920s. We have a young woman named Sarah who is going through this temp agency to try to find work. She gets a job with Alistair Gillis, I think his name is. Do I have it in my notes? Alistair Gillis, I think. He is basically a paranormal hunter, I guess you would call him. I guess that's what it's called. He has a partner. His partner's name is Matthew Ryder. But first, we have a litter box moment. His partner can't be there with him right there, so he gets with this temp agency, and Sarah, he chooses Sarah to come along with him to investigate this barn that is supposedly haunted. This is where the suspicion of who Maddie Claire is and why is she haunting this barn. So it does take a little while to get to who Maddie Claire is. There was hauntings. We do meet Maddie Claire as a ghost kind of thing, but I don't know, it wasn't thrilling to me. I don't know if maybe it was the narration. It just wasn't very exciting. It was very, very slow. The only thing I did like was there was a little bit spiciness and a little bit of a romance going on between Sarah and Matthew. So Matthew does end up coming into the picture a little bit later on. I'm not sure why he can't be there in the beginning of the paranormal hunt, but they mostly just spend their time just trying to figure out who Maddie is and why is she sticking around and haunting this place. And so we get to know a little bit more of her background the further into the book that we go, and that's when I found that the book got a little bit more interesting. And I bumped it up that half a star because I really did enjoy the romance between Sarah and Matthew. The Tenant by Freida McFadden. I gave this 5 stars. I love Freida McFadden's writing. Now, some of her books are better than the others, but there was a lot going around about this book that it wasn't her best. I think this is my favorite Freida at this point. I think. Okay, I had to close my blinds because the sun is starting to set. It's in the evening right now. I just got off of work, so I'm filming while the sun is setting and the blinds were making those little lines. So anyway, back to The Tenant. Yeah, I think this is my favorite as of yet. I really enjoyed The Housemaid, which was probably my favorite before I read this one. The Teacher, I really enjoyed The Teacher. That was my very first Freida. And there was something about it that really hooked me to Freida McFadden's writing and just her plot twists, her crazy plot twists. And another thing I enjoyed about this book was that we're getting the male perspective. And I feel like a lot of thrillers are told through a female perspective, which is fine, but it was just really fun to get it from the male perspective. Eventually we do hear from the female perspective in the book. This is narrated by Will Damron and Christine Lacken. I really enjoyed the narration of both these narrators. Really brought the story to life. So we have Blake and his fiance, if I'm remembering correctly. I did not bring my notes in here for whatever reason, I don't know, but I think his fiance's name was Amanda? Give me a minute. No, Krista. Sorry. I think there's Amanda in here somewhere. But anyway, Krista. Blake and Krista. Blake and Krista are engaged, and Blake has gotten a promotion in his job, so he wants to, set up a good home and a good environment to start a family with his eventually new wife. So he buys a new brownstone, very expensive, but no worries because his job will cover it. But things happen, things don't quite go the way Blake planned, so they have to rent out a room in their new brownstone. In comes the new tenant named Whitney. Whitney seems to be perfect at first. They don't have a problem with her. Blake doesn't have a problem with her, but soon little things start to happen that Blake is not very happy with. And that's really all I can say about this book. The book just kind of goes down like this rabbit hole of just incidents that take place. You don't know who to believe. You don't know what's going on. Is it just happening in Blake's head? It's crazy. I feel like Freida is bringing out her plot twists to the max in this story. It just gets insane. You just really have to read it or listen to it to get the vibe of what I'm trying to come across to you. I don't want to say too much about it because there's not really ways to really talk about a Frida McFadden book, because they are so like just over your head, like crazy stuff that this woman just can come up with, and it's just fascinating. And by the end you're like, what? Like you really think you have it. But now I know when I'm reading a Frida McFadden book, what I have in my head that I think might be happening, and no, I am far from what is actually taking place. But 5 stars, like I said, my favorite Frida to this point. God of Fury by Irina Kent, 5 stars. Book Talk did not lie about this book. Absolutely loved every minute, every page of this book. I did listen to this. I read along at some point while I listened. It's narrated by a full cast of characters. I do believe Teddy Hamilton is one of those narrators. Let me check, because I've been wrong lately on my narrators. Yes, Teddy Hamilton and Shane East are our main narrators for our 2 main characters, and then there's it's like everyone has a voice in this book. The audio, I feel, is the way to go, because everybody, even in the chapters, if you're reading about one character, if one character is telling you their side of the story, that narrator's talking, but then if the other character comes into that chapter, that narrator is going to talk to you. Am I making any sense? So we have Brandon and Nikolaya. We'll just call him Nikolai. He's Nico in the book, and it's Bran. They call each other Bran and Nico. They both have my heart. Oh my gosh. I don't even know where to start with these characters. So Brandon, or Bran, he's straight. He's going to tell you from the beginning he's straight. He's never been attracted to men. But he's also never really been attracted to women. So this could be a gay for you type of awakening. And then we have Nico, who is gay. And Nico is our bad boy, and sort of the son of like a mafia, mafia king maybe, I'm not sure. That whole mafia thing is in the background, because when I first heard about this book and how it was, you know, like mafia prince or whatever, which would be Nico, my bad. I was like, I'm not sure about a whole mafia romance. I've tried to read the mafia thing before and it didn't really do it for me. But that it's not even like, yeah, his dad is involved in the mafia, and you know, Nico's not the best guy ever. He's faulty. He's a bad boy, but the mafia thing is totally not in the story. This story is mainly Bran and Nico's story, and how Nico just is obsessed with Bran. And even though Nico says I'm straight, he will still try to see how he can get in, see how far he can get with Bran. I'm getting confused. It's a long story of back and forth. It's also just a long story of Bran coming into his own, realizing that he is gay, or you know, at least gay for Nico. Things have happened to Bran in the past, so there are some trigger warnings to look for in this read. Both our characters are troubled men, but beautiful men. And I just loved their story. Like I said, it was a lot of back and forth, but it was worth every word. Worth every word of these 2 guys coming together, realizing that they loved each other, trying to stay away from each other. Just heartbreaking. I cried. I laughed. All the emotions. Book Talk wasn't lying. This was a fantastic read. Then we get into Tell Me What You Did. This is by Carter Wilson. This is my first time reading from this author, and this was a book inspired by Book Talk. I gave this 4 stars. I feel like it didn't live up to the hype that I thought it was going to be. It's very hyped up on Book Talk, which I get it. It is very involved. It has a podcast element to it. I feel like the way to go with this one is the audio. It's narrated by Allison Ryan and Patrick Zeller. So we have a male and a female narrator for this. So we have Poe, who has her own voice. She is the host to this podcast called Tell Me What You Did. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. It's a true crime podcast, where she has anonymous callers call in and basically just confess to a crime that they committed. They do not have to say their names. She just wants this space for them to, I guess, kind of get their crime off their chest. And then one day she gets a call from this guy that says he killed her mother. But she killed the guy that killed her mother. So, who is this guy calling in? What does he want? What is he trying to do? What is he saying? Why would he say these things? How would he know the things that he knows? So I can see where the hype of this book comes from. I was very interested. 4 stars is still a good rating for me. I just didn't feel like it lived up to the fullest. I just felt like it didn't have that 5-star element for me. I can't explain it. I somewhat had a feeling as well where this was going, and I was right. Now, I don't try to guess thrillers or mysteries. I really don't. Sometimes you just can't help it, you know, and in your mind you're like, this is what I think it is. And to me, it's fun to find out if I'm right or not. In this case, I was right. So it kind of took a little bit of the fun out of it, but it was still interesting. And there were still like some little twists and turns, of course, that I'm not going to think of myself because I'm not a thriller writer. So, but I had a sense of where it was going, and that's kind of where it went. But it was still good. It was still fun. I love the audio. I love the whole podcast element to it. I loved that there was transcripts, like it was, and then we get to go back to where it all began with Poe and her mother being murdered, because she was there and witnessed it, so she gets to tell us her story as well. So it was very interesting, very, very good story. Just wasn't as, in my opinion, hyped up as everyone says it is, I guess. All right, well, that is it. Those are all the books, these and the other ones that I don't have copies of, that I read in May, which is a total of 7. Not too bad for a month. As always, thank y'all so much for watching. Hope y'all are all doing well out there. And my battery is flashing at me. I feel like that battery is always flashing at me, and I can't talk to y'all as much as I want to, but hugs from me all around, and I'll see y'all very, very soon in another video. If you want more of me, go over on TikTok and see what I'm up to over there. I have also been posting shorts on YouTube, so you can also check those out. All right, I'll talk to y'all very soon. Bye, y'all.